My phone rang on a Thursday afternoon, 3 days after my husband emptied our daughter's college fund and ran off with a woman half his age. I was sitting on the living room couch with Chloe and Lauren, my 19-year-old twins, surrounded by bills and bank statements. We were trying to figure out how we'd survive on just my librarian's salary. Trying to understand how $86,000 could just disappear. Trying to accept that the man I'd been married to for 21 years had chosen his mistress over his own children's future. When I saw Robert's name on my phone screen, my hands started shaking. I hadn't heard from him since he walked out. Not a call, not a text, nothing. Should I answer it? I asked the girls. Chloe and Lauren looked at each other, then both nodded. I pressed the green button with a trembling finger. Hello? What did they do? Robert's voice exploded through the speaker so loud I almost dropped the phone. He wasn't sad or apologetic. He was screaming. What the hell did those girls do? I pulled the phone away from my ear, staring at it in confusion. What are you talking about? Don't play stupid with me, Helen. His voice was shaking with rage and something else, fear maybe. My accounts are frozen. I can't access anything. The money's gone. What money? I asked, my heart pounding. All of it. The retirement account, the savings, everything. It's either gone or locked and I can't get to it. He was breathing hard like he'd been running. Tell them to fix it. Tell them to undo whatever they did. I looked at Chloe and Lauren. They were sitting calmly on the couch across from me. Too calmly. And Chloe had the smallest smile on her face. I don't know what you're talking about, I said into the phone, but my voice sounded uncertain even to myself. Yes, you do, Robert shouted. Those girls did something. They had to. Money doesn't just disappear. Accounts don't just freeze themselves. You mean like how $86,000 just disappeared from our daughter's college fund? The words came out harder than I expected. Robert made a frustrated sound. This is different. I'm ruined, Helen. Do you understand? They ruined everything. I can't access my retirement account. I can't get into the house deed. Everything's locked or gone. A woman's voice suddenly screeched in the background. You told me you had money. You said you had hundreds of thousands. You lied to me. Tiffany, the mistress, the 28-year-old woman Robert left me for. Tiffany, not now, Robert started. Not now? Not now? Her voice got louder. You moved me into an expensive apartment you can't afford. You bought things on credit cards you can't pay. You promised me we'd have a good life. We will, just let me. You have nothing, you're broke. I sat there listening to them fight, holding the phone away from my ear. Part of me felt sick. Part of me felt strangely satisfied. Helen! Robert's voice came back, sharp and desperate. Are you listening to me? This is serious. I'll take you all down with me. I swear to God, if they don't fix this, I'll make sure none of you see a penny. You already made sure of that when you stole from your own daughters, I said quietly. I didn't steal. It was my money too. It was their future. Just tell them to undo it. Robert was nearly hysterical now. Tell them to put everything back or I'll... The line went dead. He'd hung up. I slowly lowered the phone and stared at my daughters. What did you do? I whispered. Chloe and Lauren exchanged another look. Some silent conversation I couldn't understand passed between them. Then Lauren leaned forward, her voice gentle but firm. We protected our family, Mom. We protected you. My mind was spinning. 3 days ago, I'd discovered the college fund was empty. $86,000 saved over 19 years. Gone. 3 days ago, I'd found my husband packing his bags, telling me he was leaving me for a woman named Tiffany from his office. And now Robert was calling in a panic about money being gone and accounts being frozen. I don't understand, I said. My voice sounded small and confused. Chloe's smile grew a little wider. Mom, we need to tell you what we've known for 6 months. She paused, and Lauren finished the sentence. And what we've been planning for 3. 3 weeks before that phone call, my life was normal. Or at least I thought it was. It was a Thursday morning, and I was at work at the library. I loved my job. The quiet shelves, the smell of books, helping people find stories they'd enjoy. It was peaceful. Simple. I was reshelving books in the children's section when my phone rang. The number on the screen was from our bank. "Mrs. Morrison?" a woman's voice said. "This is First National Bank. We're calling about unusual activity on your college fund account." My heart skipped a beat. Unusual activity? What kind of activity? Large withdrawals. We just wanted to verify that you authorized them. I didn't make any withdrawals, I said, confused. There must be a mistake. Let me check the account. There was a pause. The withdrawal was made by Robert Morrison. That's your husband, correct? Yes, but I stopped. Maybe Robert moved the money to a better account. He handled most of our finances. I'll check with him and call you back. Of course. Thank you, Mrs. Morrison. I hung up and stared at my phone. Robert probably just moved the money somewhere safer. He was always talking about better interest rates and investment opportunities, but something felt wrong. A small voice in my head told me not to just call Robert and ask. That voice told me to go to the bank myself. During my lunch break, I drove to the bank instead of eating. The manager, Mr. Peterson, had known our family for years. He'd helped us open the college fund account when the twins were born. But when I asked to see the account, his face looked uncomfortable. "Mrs. Morrison, let me pull that up for you," he said, typing on his computer. I waited, my hands folded in my lap. Everything was fine. Robert had just moved the money. That's all. Mr. Peterson turned the screen toward me. The balance showed $0.00. My hands went numb. That can't be right, I whispered. We had $86,000 in that account last month. The withdrawal was made 2 days ago, Mr. Peterson said gently. On Tuesday morning, by Mr. Morrison. Tuesday, 2 days ago. Robert had left for work that morning like always, kissed me goodbye, said he had meetings all day. All of it? I asked. He took all of it? Yes, ma'am, the entire balance. I sat there trying to breathe, trying to think of a reasonable explanation. Maybe he invested it. Maybe he put it in bonds or stocks. Maybe there was a good reason. Thank you, I heard myself say. I'll talk to my husband. I left the bank and sat in my car in the parking lot. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my keys. I should call Robert, ask him what happened. There had to be an explanation. But that little voice was back, telling me something was very wrong. I drove home instead. It was only 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'd left work early, telling them I felt sick. It wasn't a lie. I did feel sick. When I pulled into our driveway, Robert's car was there. He should be at work. He was always at work until at least 6. I walked into the house and heard sounds coming from upstairs, from our bedroom. I climbed the stairs slowly, my heart pounding harder with each step. The bedroom door was open. Robert was standing by the bed with a suitcase, but it wasn't his business suitcase. It was the large one we used for vacations, and he wasn't packing for a trip. He was packing everything, his clothes from the closet, his personal things from the dresser, important papers from his nightstand drawer. "What are you doing?" I asked from the doorway. Robert jumped. He hadn't heard me come up the stairs. For just a second, his face looked guilty, caught. Then his expression changed, became cold and hard. "I was going to call you later," he said. "Call me about what?" Robert stopped packing and turned to face me completely. "I'm leaving, Helen. I've met someone else. Someone who actually appreciates me." The words hit me like I'd been punched in the stomach. I couldn't breathe. 21 years. We'd been married for 21 years. Who? The word came out as barely a whisper. Her name is Tiffany. She works at my firm. He said it so casually, like he was talking about the weather. We've been seeing each other for 8 months. 8 months. While I was making him dinner and doing his laundry and sleeping next to him every night, he'd been with someone else for 8 months. I leaned against the doorframe because my legs felt weak. "The college fund," I said. "The bank called. You took all the money. I needed capital. Robert said, going back to his packing. I'm starting a new life. I can't do that with empty pockets. That's our daughter's money. My voice came out louder than I expected. We saved that for 19 years for their education. They can get student loans like everyone else. Robert zipped up the suitcase and set it on the floor. I raised them for 19 years. I deserve something for myself now. I stared at him. This man I'd loved since I was 26. This man I'd built a life with. This man who just stole from his own children. How can you do this? I whispered. Robert picked up his suitcase and walked toward me. I moved aside and he stopped at the bedroom door. I'll send divorce papers in a few weeks, he said without looking at me. Don't make this difficult. Then he walked down the stairs. I heard the front door open and close. Heard his car start. Heard him drive away. I stood in our bedroom, my bedroom now, surrounded by empty spaces where his things used to be. And I realized my entire life had just changed in 5 minutes. I don't know how long I stood in that bedroom after Robert left. The sun moved across the floor, the shadows changed. I just stood there, staring at the empty spaces in the closet where his clothes used to hang. Eventually, I made myself move. I went downstairs and sat on the couch. I should cry, I should scream, I should do something, but I just felt numb. The twins would be home around 6. They both had Thursday classes that ran late. I had maybe 3 hours to figure out how to tell them that their father had left us and stolen their college money. How do you tell your daughters something like that? I sat there trying to find the words, trying to figure out how to make this hurt less. But there was no way to make it hurt less. At 6:15, I heard the front door open. Mom, you're home early, Chloe's voice called out. I heard them both come into the kitchen, laughing about something that happened in class. They sounded so happy, so normal. I made myself stand up and walk into the kitchen. Chloe and Lauren were pulling things out of the refrigerator to make dinner. They always cooked together on Thursdays. It was their thing. Mom, are you okay? Lauren asked, looking at my face. You look pale. We need to talk, I said. My voice cracked on the last word. Both girls immediately stopped what they were doing. They knew that tone. That serious, something is wrong tone. We sat down at the kitchen table, the same table where we'd eaten thousands of meals as a family, where the girls had done their homework, where we'd celebrated birthdays and holidays. I took a deep breath and told them everything. About the bank calling, about the empty college fund, about coming home and finding their father packing, about Tiffany, about Robert leaving. I watched their faces while I talked, waiting for the tears, waiting for them to fall apart. But what I saw confused me. Chloe and Lauren looked at each other, not with shock or surprise. They looked at each other like they were having a conversation without words. Then they both turned back to me, and their faces were too calm. Way too calm for what I'd just told them. Mom, Chloe said gently. We already knew. I blinked. What? We've known about Tiffany for 6 months, Lauren said quietly. We've known Dad was planning to leave for at least 3 months, and we found out about the college fund a week ago. My brain couldn't process what they were saying. How? I whispered. Chloe got up and came back with her laptop. She opened it and pulled up some files. Dad's not as careful as he thinks he is, she said. 6 months ago, my laptop broke and I borrowed his. He'd left his personal email open. There was a message from Tiffany. She turned the screen toward me. I saw an email that made my stomach turn. It was from Tiffany to Robert, talking about their relationship, about how she couldn't wait for him to leave his boring wife, about plans they were making together. I showed Lauren, Chloe continued, and we started paying attention, really paying attention. Dad was taking money from the checking account in small amounts, Lauren explained. Not enough that you'd notice, but I noticed. I'm studying accounting, remember? I know what to look for. We saw credit card charges for fancy restaurants we'd never been to, Chloe added. Hotel rooms, gifts that we never received. I felt like I was hearing about a stranger, not my husband, not the man I'd shared a bed with for 21 years. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. Both girls looked sad at that question. We wanted to, Lauren said. But we needed to be sure first. We needed evidence. And we needed to figure out how to protect you. Protect me from what? From Dad taking everything, Chloe said simply. Mom, we found documents in his office. He's been planning this for months. He consulted a divorce lawyer. He opened bank accounts you don't know about. He was trying to hide money so you'd get as little as possible. My hands were shaking. I put them flat on the table to stop them. A week ago, I found out about the college fund, Lauren said. I saw the bank statement in Dad's office. He'd already moved the money to his new secret account. We knew he was going to take it and run. So we made a plan, Chloe finished. I looked at my 19-year-old daughters. These young women I'd raised, these girls who were supposed to be worried about classes and friends and their futures. What kind of plan? I asked, almost afraid to hear the answer. Lauren and Chloe looked at each other again. Some decision passed between them. Do you remember last month when we asked you to sign some papers? Lauren asked. Dad said they were for updating the college fund account since we're adults now. I vaguely remembered. Robert had brought home some forms, said we both needed to sign them. I'd signed them without reading carefully because I trusted him. Those weren't what Dad told you they were, Chloe said carefully. What were they? My voice was barely a whisper. Lauren pulled out a folder from her backpack. She opened it and showed me documents. Legal documents with my signature on them. What you actually signed, Lauren said, was paperwork making Chloe and me joint account holders, on Dad's retirement account, on the house deed, on several other accounts. I stared at the papers. I don't understand. We switched out the papers Dad gave you, Chloe explained. Lauren made new ones that looked identical, but instead of just updating the college fund, they gave us legal access to almost everything. We've been moving money, Mom, Lauren said. For the past week, quietly, carefully. Dad's retirement account had $340,000 in it. She paused. Now it has $3,000, the minimum to keep it open. My mouth fell open. I couldn't speak. We couldn't save the college fund, Chloe said, and she actually sounded sorry about that. Dad moved too fast on that one, but everything else, we got it first. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at my daughters like I'd never seen them before. Tell me everything, I said. From the beginning. I need to understand what you did and why you did it. Lauren closed her laptop and folded her hands on the table. Chloe sat back in her chair. They looked so grown up in that moment. When had they stopped being my little girls? It started 6 months ago, Chloe began. Like I said, my laptop died and I borrowed Dad's. He left his email open. I wasn't snooping, Mom, I swear, but the email from Tiffany was right there on the screen. What did it say? I asked, even though I wasn't sure I wanted to know. That she loved him, that she couldn't wait for him to leave you, that they'd have such a better life together once he was free. Chloe's voice was matter of fact, but her eyes were angry. She called you boring, said Dad deserved someone younger and more exciting. Each word stung, but I made myself listen. I took screenshots, Chloe continued. Then I showed Lauren. We had to decide if we should tell you right away or wait. We decided to wait, Lauren said. Not because we wanted to keep it from you, but because we needed to know how bad it was. We needed evidence. So we started watching Dad, Chloe explained. Really watching. We noticed things we'd been ignoring before. Like what? I asked. Like how he was always on his phone, Lauren said. How he'd smile at texts and then hide the screen when we walked by. How he started dressing better for work. New shirts, new cologne. I remembered that cologne. I'd noticed it a few months ago. Robert said a coworker recommended it. The coworker was probably Tiffany. He started working late a lot, Chloe added. But we checked the credit cards. On nights, he said he was at the office. There were charges at restaurants across town, expensive places. I'm taking business accounting classes, Lauren said. So I started looking at our family finances, really looking. Dad kept papers in his office and he was careless about locking them up. What did you find? I asked quietly. Bank statements for accounts I'd never seen before, Lauren said. Accounts in only Dad's name. He'd been moving money from your joint account into these secret accounts. Small amounts over time so you wouldn't notice. My stomach turned. How long had Robert been planning this? I found bills from a divorce lawyer, too, Lauren continued. Dad had already had a consultation. 3 months ago. The lawyer was advising him on how to protect his assets in a divorce. Protect his assets, I repeated. Not our assets. His. Exactly, Chloe said. Dad was preparing to leave you with as little as possible. I thought about all those nights Robert had been working late, all those times he'd dismissed my questions about money, telling me not to worry about finances because that was his job. He'd been lying to me for months, maybe longer. That's when we made our plan, Lauren said. We researched what legal options we had. I found out that adult children can be added to family accounts if both parents consent. So we created the forms, Chloe explained. Lauren designed them to look exactly like what Dad said they were, college fund updates. But the real documents gave us legal control over Dad's retirement account, the house deed, and access to other accounts. Why did it work? I asked. Didn't your father read what he was signing? Lauren smiled slightly. Dad's arrogant, Mom. He thought he was so much smarter than everyone else. He barely glanced at the papers before signing. And you trusted him completely, so you signed too. She was right. I had trusted him. Completely. Stupidly. Once we had legal access, we waited, Chloe said. We knew Dad would make his move soon because Tiffany was pressuring him. We saw her texts. She told him if he didn't leave you by the end of the month, she'd end the affair, Lauren added. So we had a deadline. We knew we had maybe 3 weeks to act. That's when you started moving money? I asked. Yes, Lauren confirmed. We couldn't touch the college fund because Dad got to it first, but everything else was fair game. We transferred his retirement money to new accounts in our names with you as the beneficiary. We put liens on the house so Dad can't sell it or refinance it without our permission. We even found his secret bank account, Chloe said with satisfaction. The one where he'd been hiding money from you. Lauren figured out his passwords. Dad's not very creative. He uses the same 3 passwords for everything. We moved that money too, Lauren said. And we documented everything. Every email about the affair, every financial document, every lie he told. We built a file that will protect you in the divorce. I sat there trying to absorb all of this. My daughters had done in 3 weeks what I hadn't managed to do in 21 years. They'd protected our family. Is any of this illegal? I asked, worried. No, Lauren said firmly. Everything we did was legal because you gave us authority when you signed those papers. Dad's the one who committed fraud by lying about what the papers were. Plus, Chloe added, he'd have to admit in court that he stole his daughter's college fund to run away with his mistress. No judge would be sympathetic to that. I looked at these 2 remarkable young women. I'd raised them to be honest and kind. And they were. But they were also strong and smart and willing to fight for what was right. What happens when your father realizes what you've done? I asked. Chloe's smile was cold. He'll call you, Mom. He'll be furious. He'll yell and threaten. And that's when you'll finally get to tell him exactly what you think of him, Lauren finished. I thought about that. About facing Robert's anger. About standing up to him for the first time in our marriage. And I realized I wasn't afraid anymore. After hearing the basic outline of their plan, I needed to know more. Everything. Every single detail. Show me exactly what you did, I said. Step by step. Because if this goes wrong, if we get in legal trouble, I need to know what we're facing. Lauren pulled out a thick folder from her backpack. Inside were copies of documents, bank statements, printed emails, and handwritten notes. "First, let me show you what you actually signed versus what Dad thought you were signing," she said. She laid two papers side by side on the table. They looked almost identical. Both had official-looking headers. Both had spaces for signatures. Both talked about account updates. But when I read the fine print, my eyes went wide. The paper Robert had described was simple. Just updating the college fund account with the twins' adult information. The paper I'd actually signed gave Chloe and Lauren legal authority over Robert's retirement account, the house deed, and several other assets. "How did you make these?" I asked. "I used Dad's own letterhead," Lauren said. "I copied the format from real bank documents. Everything looks legitimate because it is legitimate. These are real legal documents, Mom, just not what Dad said they were." "And because you signed them," Chloe added, "everything we did after was completely legal. You're a property owner. You're on all those accounts. You had every right to add us." I looked at my daughters with a mixture of awe and fear. They'd outsmarted their own father. "Walk me through what you did with each account," I said. Lauren flipped to another section of her folder. The retirement account was the big one, $340,000. Dad's been building it for 20 years. "The moment we got authorized access, we started transferring money," Chloe explained. "But we had to be smart about it. Large transfers trigger alerts." "So we moved it in small chunks," Lauren continued. "5,000 here, 7,000 there, never more than 10,000 at once. We spread the transfers over 2 weeks. We opened new accounts in our names at different banks," Chloe said, "with you listed as the beneficiary, Mom. So legally, the money belongs to us, but goes to you if anything happens." By the time Dad walked out the door, his retirement account had $3,000 left, Lauren finished. Just enough to keep the account open so he wouldn't get suspicious too early. My head was spinning. "What about the house?" "That was my idea," Lauren said, and she looked almost proud. "I learned about property liens in my business law class. Because your name is on the deed and you gave us authority, we could file liens against the house." "What does that mean?" I asked. "It means we filed paperwork claiming the house as collateral for loans we supposedly gave you and Dad," Lauren explained. "The loans aren't real, but the liens are. They're filed with the county recorder's office, all official and legal. And that means Dad can't sell the house or refinance it without paying off the liens first," Chloe added. "Liens that he can't actually pay because they only exist on paper." I tried to wrap my mind around this. "So the house is protected?" "Completely," Lauren confirmed. "What else?" I asked. "The joint checking account," Chloe said. "We couldn't take all the money without Dad noticing right away. But we moved enough to leave him with way less than he thought he had. We also found Dad's secret account," Lauren said quietly. "The one he opened to hide money from you." "How did you get into that?" I asked. "Dad uses the same passwords for everything," Lauren said. "His birthday, your birthday, our birthday. I tried them all until one worked. Once I was in, I transferred that money too. About $23,000 you didn't even know existed. $23,000, hidden from me. Money that was supposed to be ours, but Robert had been hoarding for himself. We documented everything too," Chloe said, opening her laptop. "Every email between Dad and Tiffany, every financial document showing his planning, every charge on the credit cards, every lie about working late." She showed me files and files of evidence, screenshots, photos of documents, bank statements, everything organized and dated. "This will protect you in the divorce," Lauren said. "Any lawyer will look at this and know exactly what Dad was doing." I noticed Chloe looking a little uncomfortable. "What else?" I asked. "There's something you're not telling me." Chloe glanced at Lauren, then back at me. "I installed monitoring software on Dad's phone and laptop." "Is that legal?" I asked immediately. "Legally gray," Chloe admitted. "But the phone is on our family plan under your name, Mom, and the laptop is technically family property. so we think we can justify it if we need to. What did this software do? It let us see everything, Chloe said. Every text, every call, every email. That's how we knew exactly when Dad was planning to leave. We saw Tiffany threatening to end things if he didn't leave you soon. We saw Dad promising her he had money. Lots of money. He told her about the college fund, Lauren said, about the retirement account, about his plans to take half of everything in the divorce and leave you struggling. He had no idea we'd already taken most of it, Chloe said with a grim smile. I sat back in my chair, overwhelmed. But what if he claims this is theft? I asked. What if he goes to the police or sues you? He can try, Lauren said calmly. But we have proof that you gave us legal authority. We have evidence that he lied about what the papers were. We have documentation of his affair and his financial deception. Any lawyer will tell him he has no case, Chloe added. And he'd have to admit in court that he stole his daughter's college fund to run off with his mistress. No judge would sympathize with that. I looked at my daughters and felt something I hadn't felt in days. Hope. When will he find out? I asked. Lauren checked her phone. He probably already knows about the retirement account. The bank sends notifications when the balance drops below certain amounts. He's probably trying to log in right now and seeing that he's locked out. And that's when he'll call, Chloe predicted, probably screaming. I took a deep breath. For the first time in 21 years, I wasn't afraid of my husband's anger. Because this time, I wasn't alone. This time, I had my daughters on my side. And this time, I wasn't the one who was defenseless. After Robert's panicked phone call, I didn't hear from him for 2 days. But my older sister Judith called with interesting news. You'll never guess what I just heard, Judith said. She sounded almost excited. My friend Karen works at Robert's firm. She told me what's been happening there. I sat down on the couch, phone pressed to my ear. What's happening? Apparently Robert showed up at work the day after he left you looking like he'd won the lottery, Judith said. He was smiling, telling everyone he was starting fresh, and he introduced Tiffany around as his girlfriend, in front of everyone. My face burned with embarrassment. Everyone at his office knew. They all knew he'd left me. But then, Judith continued, and her voice changed. 3 days later, Robert came in looking terrible, panicked. He'd been trying to access his retirement account and found it empty. I closed my eyes, picturing it. Robert at his computer, watching his secure future disappear. He called the bank right there in his office, Judith said. Karen heard him yelling. The bank told him authorized account holders had transferred the funds. When he asked who, they said his daughters. A small smile crossed my face despite everything. That's when he called you? Judith asked. Yes, screaming. Good, Judith said firmly. He deserves worse. Over the next few days, I learned more about what was happening to Robert. Some from Judith's friend, some from Chloe's monitoring software, which was still tracking Robert's phone. Tiffany left him. Chloe showed me the text messages. Tiffany had been promised a comfortable life with a man who had money and assets. When she discovered Robert was essentially broke and facing a messy divorce, she ended things immediately. You lied to me about everything, her text said. You said you had hundreds of thousands saved. You said we'd buy a house together. You said we'd travel. You have nothing. I'm done. Robert's responses were pathetic, begging her to stay, promising he'd get the money back, telling her it was just a temporary problem. She blocked his number. Then Robert's job situation got complicated. His boss called him in for a meeting. The firm had policies about relationships between employees, especially when one person supervised the other. Robert's very public affair with Tiffany violated those policies. Plus, his work performance had been terrible for months. Missed deadlines, errors in reports, distracted behavior. They put him on probation. Robert also tried to fight back legally. He consulted a lawyer about getting the money back from Chloe and Lauren. I know because Lauren got an alert when Robert paid the lawyer's consultation fee on his credit card. The lawyer apparently told him the truth. He had no legal case. He'd signed papers giving the girls access. The money was moved legally. His only option was to sue his own daughters, which would require proving they'd deceived him. But Robert was the one who lied about what the papers were, and he did it in front of me. I could testify against him. The lawyer told him he'd lose and look terrible doing it. Then there was the money problem. Robert had rented an expensive apartment for himself and Tiffany, a 2-bedroom place downtown with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view, the kind of place that cost $3,000 a month. He'd signed a year lease. He'd also bought a new car, not paid for in cash, financed. With payments of $600 a month, he'd run up credit cards buying things for Tiffany, jewelry, clothes, expensive dinners. All of it was coming due, and Robert didn't have the money to pay for any of it. I watched this unfold with a strange feeling. Not happiness, exactly, but not sadness either. Just a sense that Robert was finally facing consequences for his choices. Then, 1 week after he'd left, Robert came to the house. It was evening. Around 7 o'clock. The twins were both at their night classes, so I was home alone. I heard a car in the driveway and looked out the window. Robert's new car. My heart started racing. I thought about not answering the door, but he still had his keys. He could let himself in if he wanted. I opened the door before he could. Robert looked terrible. His face was unshaven. His clothes were wrinkled. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. "We need to talk," he said. "I don't think we do," I replied. My voice shook a little, but I kept my hand steady on the door. "Helen, please, this has gotten out of control. The girls have taken things too far." Something inside me snapped. They took things too far? My voice came out louder than I meant it to. You stole from your own daughters and abandoned your family, but they're the ones who took things too far? Robert's face flashed with anger. "They stole from me. They had no right. You stole from them first," I interrupted. $86,000. Their college fund. Money we saved for 19 years for their future. You took it to run off with a woman young enough to be your daughter. Robert's anger shifted to desperation. "I need that money back, Helen. I'm drowning. The apartment, the car payments, the credit cards, I can't manage it all. If the girls just return half, we can work this out." I looked at him. Really looked at him. This man I'd been married to for 21 years. This man who'd shared my bed and my life and my dreams. I barely recognized him. "You made your choices, Robert," I said quietly. "Now you get to live with them. Just like I have to live with what you did to me." I started to close the door, but Robert put his hand out to stop it. "Don't do this, Helen. Don't let them turn you against me." I met his eyes. "You did that yourself," I said, "the day you emptied our daughter's college fund." I closed the door and locked it. Robert stood on the porch for a long moment. I watched through the window as he finally turned and walked back to his car. As I watched him drive away, I realized something. I wasn't afraid of him anymore. 3 months passed. 3 months of change that felt like a lifetime. My sister Judith connected me with a divorce lawyer, a sharp woman named Patricia Simmons who listened to my story with a face that got angrier with every detail. "He emptied their college fund," she said when I finished, "to run off with his mistress?" "Yes." "And your daughters documented everything?" "Everything." Patricia smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who was about to win. "Mrs. Morrison, I'm going to enjoy this case." She wasn't wrong. The divorce proceedings were brutal for Robert. The evidence Chloe and Lauren had gathered made everything clear. The affair, the financial deception, the lies, the stolen college fund. Robert's lawyer tried to fight, but there wasn't much to fight with. The judge was not sympathetic to a man who'd stolen from his own daughters to fund an affair. I was awarded the house outright. Robert got nothing from it because of the liens the girls had filed. He couldn't even contest it without admitting the whole story. The judge ordered Robert to pay me spousal support. Not a huge amount because Robert claimed he had very little money now, but enough to help while I figured out my new life. Robert had to sell his expensive new car. had to break his apartment lease and move into a cheap studio across town. His entire carefully planned new life collapsed in a matter of weeks. The college fund money was a different story. Robert had already spent most of it. On the apartment deposit, on furniture, on gifts for Tiffany, on his car down payment. He couldn't pay it back, but it didn't matter anymore because Chloe and Lauren had protected everything else. The twins used the money they'd secured to transfer to a 4-year university for their sophomore year. A good school with strong programs in computer science and business. The money Robert had in his retirement account, the money that was now in accounts under the girls' names, paid for their tuition, their housing, their books, everything they needed. They even put some aside for me, $20,000 they insisted I take to help get back on my feet. I cried when they told me. Not sad tears, grateful tears. I made changes too. I went from part-time to full-time at the library. My boss had been wanting me to do it for years, but Robert had always said I didn't need to work more. He'd wanted me available at home. Now I wanted to work, needed to work. They promoted me to head librarian 3 weeks after I went full-time. Better pay, more responsibility, my own small office with a window. I redecorated the house, got rid of the furniture Robert had picked out, painted the walls colors I actually liked, made the space feel like mine instead of ours. I reconnected with friends I'd lost touch with over the years. Women I'd stopped seeing because Robert always found reasons why we couldn't go out, why I should stay home instead. I started taking online classes toward my master's degree in library science, something I'd always wanted but Robert said was a waste of time and money. It felt good to make my own choices again. The twins came home from university every few weeks. We'd have dinner together and they'd tell me about their classes, their friends, their lives. Chloe was excelling in computer science. She got an internship at a tech company for the summer. Lauren was the top student in her business program. Her professors were encouraging her to consider law school after graduation. I watched them grow and thrive, and I felt proud, not just of what they'd accomplished, but of who they were becoming. Strong, smart, unafraid. One Saturday evening, about 4 months after Robert left, I was making dinner when my phone rang. Robert's name on the screen. I almost didn't answer. We'd barely spoken since the divorce was finalized 2 weeks ago, but curiosity won. Hello? Robert's voice was different, quiet, defeated. Helen, I wanted to apologize. I nearly dropped the phone. In 21 years of marriage, Robert had rarely apologized for anything. I've had a lot of time to think, he continued, about what I did, what I threw away. I was stupid and selfish, and I destroyed our family for something that wasn't even real. I didn't say anything, just listened. Tiffany was never going to stay with me. She wanted money and status, not me. And I gave up everything for that. For her. His voice cracked slightly. I gave up you. I gave up the girls. I gave up the life we built. Why are you telling me this? I asked quietly. Because you deserved better, Robert said. You were a good wife, Helen, a good mother, and I took advantage of that. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I know what I lost. Tears filled my eyes, but they weren't sad tears. They were tears of closure. Thank you for saying that, I said. But it doesn't change anything. I know, Robert said. I just needed to say it. Take care of yourself, Helen, and tell the girls. Tell them I'm sorry. For all of it. He hung up before I could respond. I set the phone down and stood in my kitchen now, looking around at the life I was building. A life without Robert. A life on my own terms. It wasn't the life I'd planned. It wasn't the future I'd imagined when I got married 21 years ago. But it was mine. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt free. The doorbell rang, pulling me from my thoughts. I opened it to find Chloe and Lauren standing there, weekend bags in hand. Surprise, Chloe said. We decided to come home for the weekend. We missed you, Mom, Lauren added. I pulled them both into a hug. These two remarkable young women. These daughters who'd loved me enough to fight for me when I couldn't fight for myself. "I love you both," I whispered. "We love you too," they said together. We spent that evening together, cooking dinner, talking, laughing, being a family, a different family than before. Smaller, changed, but stronger. Later that night, after the girls had gone to bed in their old rooms, I stood at my bedroom window looking out at the quiet street. I thought about the woman I'd been 4 months ago. Afraid, dependent, willing to ignore warning signs because facing the truth was too scary. I wasn't that woman anymore. I was someone new, someone stronger, someone who'd learned that she could survive losing everything and still be okay. Someone who'd learned that the people who truly loved you would stand beside you when everything fell apart. I thought about Robert's apology. Part of me appreciated it. Part of me would always care about him because of the years we'd shared. But I didn't need his apology to move forward. I was already moving forward, with my daughters, with my career, with my own dreams finally within reach. The future was uncertain. I didn't know what it would bring. But I knew one thing for sure. Whatever came next, I could handle it. Because I'd already survived the worst. And I'd come out the other side stronger than I